This happened 8 years ago. I was 32 and needed a break from the city. I found an old cabin deep in the woods. I thought it would be peaceful. The cabin creaked with every breeze. Dust filled the air, and the windows were grimy. I set up my things, ready to find inspiration for my graphic design work. But, to be honest, I've never stopped thinking about that place. The first day, I sketched some ideas. But there was something strange. I brushed it off as nerves. Later, I decided to explore the attic. I found a dusty trunk. When I opened it, I discovered a stash of old drawings. They looked like they were done by a child. The family in the pictures seemed off, almost distorted. I didn't understand why I felt uneasy that as the days went by, I couldn't stop looking at those drawings. They seemed to change every time I looked. At night, I struggled to sleep. I kept dreaming about the family from the drawings. They looked sad and scared. Sometimes, I thought I heard whispers in the night. Other times, odd noises crept through the cabin. I felt cold even with the windows shut. My heart raced, but I convinced myself it was just my mind playing tricks. One night, I sat with the drawings again. It felt like something was behind me. I turned quickly, but nothing was there. I laughed it off. I returned to the sketches, and noticed something terrifying. They seemed to shift, as if they were alive. I thought I was just too tired, but the feeling wouldn't go away. The next day, I heard footsteps outside. I peeked out the window, but nothing was there, just trees. I thought maybe it was a deer, but it had walked too quietly. My hands trembled as I went back to my drawings. Later that evening, I noticed a new image in the stack. Confusion flooded me. It was a drawing of me, sitting in the cabin, staring at the others that I felt a chill crawl down my spine. I thought I was imagining things. That night, I couldn't sleep, my heart racing. Then I heard the whispers again. They grew louder, echoing through the room. I felt like someone was watching me. I got out of bed. The darkness felt heavy. I glanced around the cabin. Then I thought I heard my name, soft and drawn out. I froze. When I turned around, I saw another figure in the corner of the paper, a drawing of myself. But it felt wrong. I stumbled back. Suddenly, it felt like the drawings were pulling me in. I swear I heard my name again, closer this time. The weight of eyes surrounded me, shadows creeping along the walls. Realization hit me, I shouldn't have come here. Just then, a loud crash echoed through the cabin. I spun around, heart pounding, but nothing was there. The silence swallowed me whole. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was waiting in the shadows, watching my every move. The next morning, I woke up feeling drained. The shadows from last night still clung to my mind. I had barely slept, and the cabin felt like a prison. I decided I needed to shake off the dread. Fresh air might help. I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside. The woods were eerily quiet. There was no chirping of birds or rustling leaves. Just silence. As I walked further, I tried to clear my head. But the trees loomed over me, their branches reaching like skeletal hands. A twinge of fear crept in, but I brushed it aside. I needed to take control. That I made my way to the clearing that led to a small creek. The water sparkled under the sun, but it didn't bring me peace. I sat by its edge, trying to focus on anything but the cabin. That's when I noticed something strange in the water. A shape was caught in the current, half submerged. I leaned closer. It was a small wooden box. Curiosity took over. I reached in and pulled it out. It was lighter than it looked. My fingers traced over the smooth surface, and the box creaked open. Inside, I found more drawings. These ones were not childlike, but unsettlingly detailed. They showed the same distorted family from the first set, but with one important difference: they seemed to bleed from their eyes. That I felt sick. I dropped the box, letting it clatter to the ground. My heart raced. Why were these drawings here? Did someone else experience what I was going through? Something deep inside me warned that I was digging too deep. I needed to get back to the cabin. As I retraced my steps, I couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. It was as if the trees were watching me, their branches whispering secrets only they knew. I quickened my pace. When I finally reached the cabin, a chill swept over me. I hesitated at the door. With a deep breath, I pushed it open. The familiar creaks echoed louder than before, almost mocking me. I stepped inside, and a shiver ran down my spine. The air felt thicker now, suffocating. I glanced at the drawings scattered on the table, and my stomach dropped. There was another piece among them, an additional drawing of the family, but this time they were all pointing at something. Nervously, I looked to where they pointed. It felt like a trap. My heart raced as I walked over. I was standing in front of the wall, and then I saw it, a door I had missed before. It was small and partially concealed behind a tattered curtain. Panic crept in. Why hadn't I noticed it? What lay beyond? With shaky hands, I pushed the curtain aside and reached for the doorknob. Suddenly, my name echoed through the cabin again, louder this time, and I froze. Someone, or something, was calling me. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. The voice was haunting, a soft whisper that beckoned me closer. I fought the urge to turn and run. My curiosity clawed at me. What did this door lead to? With a deep breath, I twisted the knob. It creaked open, revealing a dark passageway. A musty smell wafted out, the scent of decay mingling with dampness. I knew I should step back, but something compelled me to move forward. I flicked on my phone's flashlight and stepped inside. The darkness enveloped me. The walls were rough, the floor uneven and covered in dirt and debris. The passage felt endless, stretching into the shadows. My heart raced as each step echoed off the walls. Then, I saw a figure at the end of the corridor. It was just a shadow, but it felt real. I froze. Did I really see someone? I squinted into the darkness, but the figure vanished. The air grew colder, a shiver dancing down my spine. I took another step forward, and the whispers began again. They spiraled around me, forming indistinct words. I strained to understand, but it was just noise, a cacophony that ramped my fear. I turned to run back to the cabin, but that's when I saw it clearly, drawings plastered on the walls. They were similar to the ones in the cabin, but these were even more unsettling. These figures were twisted, their faces grotesque with wide, hollow eyes and gaping mouths that seemed to scream. They clawed at each other, their limbs tangled. Among them was a new figure, one I hadn't seen before. It was hunched over and vaguely human, with dark, dripping eyes that seemed to follow my every move. Panic surged through me. I backed away, wanting nothing more than to leave this place. But before I could turn, the whispers coalesced into my name once again. I felt a breath on my neck, hot and heavy. I spun around, my heart hammering. The passage was empty. Just darkness. Chills crept down my arms as I realized I was utterly alone. The air felt thick, like a weight pressing down. I turned back toward the wall, the figure haunting my thoughts. I needed to gather my courage, to understand what I was dealing with. With trembling fingers, I reached forward and touched one of the drawings. A shock coursed through me. It was as if the figure had come to life, energy pulsing within the artwork. I yanked my hand away, breathless. In that moment, I knew leaving was going to be simple, and then I heard it. The soft creak of the door behind me. I turned to see it slowly swing shut, trapping me inside. The room went dark. Something sinister was closing in. The darkness wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. My flashlight flickered as panic rose in my chest. I aimed it around the passage, desperate for a glimpse of anything that could guide me. My breathing quickened. I had to focus. Suddenly, the whispers returned, louder this time. They seemed to reverberate off the walls, creating a chaotic symphony that filled the narrow space. I pressed my back against the wall, my heart racing. "What do you want?" I called out, my voice trembling. The whispers faded for a moment, and I strained to listen. Then they came back, clearer now, speaking in urgent tones that made it impossible to understand yet impossible to ignore. The weight of fear settled over me. With no other choice, I took a step deeper into the passage, moving away from the door, my only escape route. Ahead, the faint glow of my phone's light caught something on the ground. I crouched down. It was a piece of paper, yellowed and crumpled. I picked it up, hands shaking, and smoothed it out. My heart sank as I recognized the drawings. They mirrored the horror on the walls, twisted figures clawing at each other in agony, but there was something else scribbled in the corner, a name. Evelyn. The same name I had found in the cabin. I felt a chill creep down my spine. Who was she? Why were her name and these drawings here? The shadows shifted around me. I could feel their presence, moving just out of reach. I glanced back at the door, still tightly shut. There was no turning back now. I could hear the whispers again, climbing faster, calling out my name, urging me to go further into the darkness that I forced myself to stand. "I'm not afraid," I whispered, though the tremor in my voice betrayed me. I had to see this through. As I continued deeper into the passage, I noticed that the air felt charged with something like static electricity before a storm. A sudden gust rushed by me, chilling my skin and carrying with it the scent of something rotten. I staggered back, colliding with the wall, and my flashlight flickered again. I swiped the beam around, feeling the prickle of dread creeping up my arms. That's when I saw it. A figure, no longer just a shadow, emerging from the darkness. It was the hunched-over figure from the wall, its eyes now glimmering with an eerie light. I stumbled back, heart thundering in my chest. The being seemed to be beckoning me to come closer, its long fingers curled as if inviting me into its world of horror. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, my voice now barely above a whisper. The figure opened its mouth, but no sound escaped. Instead, a wave of dread washed over me that felt like it was stealing my breath. As I stood frozen in shock, the whispers intensified, swirling into a tempest of chaotic energy. I realized I wasn't just facing a drawing. I was in the presence of something dark and ancient. Before I could react, the figure lunged forward, and everything went black. Then silence. My heart raced as I fought to grasp what had just happened. I was lost, but not alone. I opened my eyes to a dim, flickering light. My heart hammered in my chest as I realized I wasn't in the passage anymore. I was lying on a cold, hard floor bathed in a pale glow. It took a moment for my vision to adjust. I sat up slowly, every part of me on high alert. The whispers were gone. In their place, an oppressive silence hung in the air, thick enough to taste. I scanned the room. It was small, the walls lined with old stone that felt damp and crumbling. To my left, a shadow danced in the corner of the room. I stiffened, straining my ears to listen more closely. The flickering light came from a single, weak bulb hanging from the ceiling. I got to my feet, wobbly at first. Something about the room felt familiar, like I had seen it in my mind before. I stepped forward cautiously, every sense heightened and ready to react. That's when I noticed the walls. They were covered with the same disturbing drawings I had seen in the passage, twisted, contorted figures caught in moments of anguish. Among them was the name Evelyn, repeated over and over again, almost like a chant. It echoed in my memory, a reminder from the cabin. I couldn't shake the pull of her name, the urgency it carried. What was her connection to all of this? A noise snapped me back to reality. It was soft, scuttling, like something moving just out of sight. I turned my head quickly, nerves fraying. I caught a glimpse of something darting in the shadows. Was it the hunched figure? The air thickened again, and a chill swept over me. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. The response was eerie silence, and then laughter. It was distant and haunting, a cruel mockery of what I had just faced. Panic surged within me. I stepped back but collided with a wall, my eyes scanning for an escape. Just then, a door creaked open to my right, and I felt a rush of air from behind it, the kind that hinted at freedom. I hesitated, caught in a tug-of-war between the unknown and the fear of what lay beyond. I couldn't stay in this room, inundated by the echoes of misery. Grimly, I made my choice. I sprinted toward the door and pushed it open. An overwhelming brightness flooded my senses, almost blinding me. I stumbled through and found myself not in another room, but outside. The air was crisp and cold against my skin, a stark contrast to the stifling darkness I had just escaped. I looked around, disoriented. The landscape was eerily familiar. I stood in the middle of a clearing, surrounded by trees that formed a wall of shadows. Their silhouettes loomed over me, whispering secrets lost to the night. There was a feeling of wrongness in the air. I was still trapped somehow, caught in a loop I couldn't understand. And then I saw her, a figure standing at the edge of the clearing. Long hair hung down her back, just like in the drawings. Evelyn. I called out, the name escaping my lips involuntarily. She turned slowly, her eyes reflecting the dim light, and I froze. This was someone I should know, someone I should trust. But dread filled my stomach as she started walking toward me, her hands stretched out like she was reaching for something lost. "Help me," she whispered, and fear gripped me tighter than before. The space around us seemed to tremble. I knew I was in deep now, and I could feel the darkness closing in again. Evelyn's voice lingered in the air, and my heart raced. Every instinct screamed at me to run. I took a hesitant step back, but the trees closed in around me, their branches twisting like fingers reaching for something they could never grasp. "Why?" I managed to ask, the word heavy on my tongue. My breath quickened, and I searched her face for any hint of familiarity, but it was veiled in shadows. She didn't look like the girl from the cabin anymore. Her expression was haunted, her eyes glistening with unspilled tears. "Because I'm trapped," she whispered, each word coated in despair. "And you can help." Her plea tugged at my heart, though fear wrestled with it. I took another cautious step forward. "Trapped? How? What do you need me to do?" Evelyn's gaze faltered as she looked past me, her expression twisting into a mix of fear and anger. "It feeds on your fear. Don't let it in." Confusion swept over me. What was she talking about? Before I could ask, a rustling sound erupted from behind me, branches cracking and whispers echoing in the night air. I turned sharply, but saw nothing. Just darkness creeping closer. "Evelyn, what are you?" But suddenly, the ground trembled beneath my feet, and I felt the unmistakable pull of a void opening up below me. I stumbled, trying to regain my balance. Panic surged as I glanced back at her. "What do I do?" "Run!" she shouted, her voice rising above the growing chaos. I wanted to stay, to figure out what was happening, but instinct took over. I turned and dashed deeper into the trees, my legs pumping. Branches whipped at my skin as I dashed through the underbrush, the darkness swallowing me whole. The shadows brushed against me like icy fingers. I could feel it, whatever had caught her was now hunting me too. My breath came in ragged gasps. The cold air burned my lungs. I didn't dare look back, but could still hear Evelyn's voice faintly echoing, growing fainter, more desperate. "Help me!" Then, a sharp pain shot through my ankle. I stumbled and barely caught myself. I looked down and saw a vine, thick and gnarled, snaking around my foot, pulling me back. The ground shifted beneath me as if it were alive, shifting into a pit of despair. "No!" I yelled, struggling against the entrapment. I broke free and forced my legs to move again, but the shadows were closing in, whispering secrets I didn't want to hear. I could feel their hunger, when I saw it, a flickering light in the distance, a faint glow amidst the darkness. A path? A refuge? I sprinted toward it, my heart pounding. As I drew closer, the light expanded, and I could see a shape against it, another door. Hope ignited. I rushed forward, but the vine was relentless, wrapping tighter around my ankle. Evelyn. My voice was a desperate plea as I lunged for the glowing doorway. Please help. Just as my fingers grazed the door handle, the shadows swallowed the last remnants of the light. Darkness engulfed me, and then everything went black. I gasped awake, finding myself back in the small, crumbling room. The walls vibrated, etched with Evelyn's name, and the chilling laughter returned. I was trapped once more, lost in a cycle I couldn't escape. I bolted upright, my chest heaving. It took a moment to register that I was back in the room, the air thick with the scent of mold and despair. The laughter echoed in my ears, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. Panic clawed at my insides, the shadows were heavier now, almost alive. I scrambled to my feet, pacing the cramped space. The walls felt like they were closing in. Evelyn's face flashed in my mind-haunted eyes, desperate whispers. It was more than just a dream, wasn't it? I gripped my head, trying to piece together what I had just experienced. Evelyn. I shouted, the sound hollow. Where are you? Silence responded, a deafening absence that made my heart race faster. I glanced around, searching for any sign of her. There had to be something, a clue, a way to figure out what this place wanted from me. To my left, the flickering light from a small window caught my eye. I moved toward it, the beam spilling across the dusty wooden floor, illuminating faded sketches on the walls. I stopped, startled. The drawings. They were of her, Evelyn, trapped in twisted branches. I stepped closer, my pulse quickening as I began to recognize the details, the anguish in her face. I reached out, my fingertips brushing the rough surface. Each stroke pulsed with a haunting energy. What is this? I murmured. The air felt charged, and a few of the sketches glowed faintly. Images flickered to life, Evelyn crying, reaching out, her hand palming against the drawings as if begging for rescue. I felt a deep sorrow pull at me, but along with that came an insatiable dread. Then I noticed something else. A sketch stood out beneath the others, a door, much like the one from my dream. It was barred, its dark frame contrasting sharply against the swirling chaos drawn around it. A shudder ran through me. I turned my head, half expecting to find the real door behind me. But no, only the trapped room remained. Evelyn. I shouted again, my voice trembling with urgency. No answer came, only the scratching sound of something creeping along the walls. Instinct kicked in. I had to leave. I had to find her. I moved to the front of the room and pushed on the old door, but it wouldn't budge. My heart sank. I looked back at the eerie sketches, their eyes seeming to follow me. Desperation clawed at my mind. Please, show me how. I yelled, pushing against the door with every ounce of strength I had. It rattled but didn't yield. In an insane moment of clarity, I remembered the vines. If they were as real as the drawings, maybe this door was a gateway. Maybe I had to confront whatever was keeping Evelyn trapped. I stepped back, gathering my breath. If this door holds all of it, I said, then I'm going through. With renewed determination, I charged at the door, slamming my shoulder against it. The wood creaked loudly, and for a second, I thought I could hear Evelyn's voice mingling with the door's groans. Just as I braced for another strike, the whispers escalated to a crescendo, and the air grew thick. A moment of blinding light flashed around me, and with it came an unmistakable sound. A growl, deep, resonant, and hungry. Then everything stopped. I stood still, breathless, staring at the door, dread sinking deeper into my bones. What had I unleashed? I took a cautious step back from the door, heart racing. The growl had echoed through my mind, a warning I couldn't ignore. It wasn't just a sound, it felt like an entity lurking behind the wood, waiting to be released. Forcing myself to breathe, I scanned the room again. The drawings shimmered faintly, each image pulsing like a heartbeat. I had to understand them, but how? I reached out once more, my fingers tracing the edges of Evelyn's face in one of the sketches. Suddenly, the air shifted, and a ghastly chill wrapped around me. From the corner of my eye, movement. I whipped my head towards the window. It wasn't just the shadows that had deepened, something was outside, creeping just beyond my sight. The scratching grew louder, more frantic. Panic clawed at my throat. Evelyn! I called into the abyss, desperation dripping from my voice. I couldn't just stand here. The door loomed behind me, but the danger outside felt closer, more immediate. I needed answers, and they wouldn't come from running away. I stepped toward the window, half expecting to see her face staring back at me. Instead, there was nothing but a dense wall of darkness. I peered harder, hoping to catch a glimpse, then a flash of shadow darted across the glass, too quick for me to comprehend. I jumped back, my heart hammering. It was just a trick of the light, or was it? The scratching escalated into a frenzied pounding. I turned back to the door, my resolve cracking. I can't wait, I muttered to myself, gripping the edge of the wooden frame. Evelyn needs me. With a surge of adrenaline, I turned and hurled myself into the door once more. It shook violently, the sound reverberating through the room like a thunderclap. This time, I felt it budge a fraction, but enough to fuel my hope. Before I could think about what I was doing, I threw my weight against it again. The door shuddered and then split open with a deafening creak. I stumbled forward into a new space, breathless. And found myself in a long, dark hallway, walls lined with the same eerie sketches. But this time, the images were darker, distorted. They depicted twisted versions of Evelyn wide-eyed, mouth screaming in silent agony. I froze, terror gripping me, that feeling of being watched crept back in. I sensed I wasn't alone. Come on, I whispered to myself. You're doing this for her. The hallway felt alive, pulsing with dread and anticipation. Each step echoed back, as if mocking my fear. As I moved deeper, the shadows congealed around me. I paused, straining to hear any signs of movement. Just the wind, or so I thought. Then something scuttled behind me. I turned sharply, and when I saw it. A glimmer of light reflecting off something large just at the edge of the darkness. My pulse quickened. I couldn't make out what it was, but it looked alive, writhing and swirling. The growl returned, louder this time, a low, frightening threat vibrating through my bones. I needed to know what it was and, more importantly, if it was connected to Evelyn. But the further I went, the deeper the shadows pulled me into panic. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. Not if Evelyn's fate lay ahead. I inhaled deeply, willing my legs to carry me forward, then, without warning, the shadows lunged. I stumbled back, heart racing as a darkness with depth and form surged toward me. It was an unnatural mass, a swirl of shadows that seemed to pulse. Just before it reached me, the figure split, revealing two distinct shapes. I wanted to scream, but the air turned thick, stifling my voice. Then they solidified, and I saw what haunted me in nightmares. They were twisted versions of Evelyn. Their features were grotesque, eyes sunken and mouths wide in silent screams, just like the sketches. I gasped, my breath catching in my throat. This couldn't be possible. I backed away slowly, my skin prickling as their eyes followed me, unblinking. Evelyn. I tried to call out, but the word caught in my throat, mingling with fear. The figures didn't respond. Instead, they elongated, reaching towards me with fingers like blackened tree branches. Get away from me! I shouted, adrenaline igniting my legs. I turned and ran, the hallway stretching like a tunnel of dread behind me. It felt like I was sprinting through molasses, with every heartbeat drumming louder in my ears. I could hear the echoes of their growls, layered in a discordant harmony, making my thoughts spin. I zigzagged through the hallway, desperately searching for an exit. My hands brushed against the cold walls, slick with dampness, and I conjured images of Evelyn's warm smile. I skidded to a halt at an old door, its paint peeling and wood splintering. I yanked it open. As I stepped inside, the room fell silent. The light flickered overhead, barely illuminating the space. My breath hitched as I scanned the area. Old furniture lay haphazardly around, a cracked mirror reflected my wide eyes. In the corner sat a small table, covered in dust and strewn with forgotten items. I moved closer, hoping for something useful. Then I saw it. A journal, its leather cover cracked with age. My fingers ached to dive into its pages, to extract any shred of knowledge. I opened it, and the smell of old paper filled my nostrils. Frantic notes scribbled in uneven handwriting caught my eye. Evelyn. Don't let them take her. They want her. My heart thudded heavily. Who had written this? What were they warning me about? I flipped through more pages, finding drawings that mirrored the horrifying replicas from the hallway. The last entry sent chills down my spine. They feed on fear. They are waiting for you. The ground shook slightly beneath me, the noise of the shadows approaching again sending a jolt of fright through my entire being. I slammed the journal shut, realizing time was running out. That s when a loud crash echoed from the back of the room, a new threat, far more real than the fear that clung to me. I spun around, heart racing. I wasn't alone. Someone was in the house. I had to act fast. The shadows were creeping closer, their hunger palpable. I couldn't let them catch me, not now, not when I was so close to understanding. Desperation surged through me as I searched for a way out, my mind racing. The room was small, but I spotted a window behind a rickety old chair. It looked like my only hope. I rushed toward it, barely pausing to pull it open. The hinges creaked loudly, and I winced at the noise, but I was out of time. Behind me, I could hear that eerie laughter again, like the shadows were mocking my every move. I squeezed through the narrow opening, cutting my palms on the rough edges. Fear stung my heart as I dropped to the ground, grass scraping my knees. I rolled to my feet, tears stinging my eyes as I sprinted away from the cabin and its haunting secrets. The dark woods loomed around me, but I didn't dare look back to see what had followed. My lungs burned, each breath drawing in the cold, crisp air. Whatever twisted fate had threatened me inside that cabin had fueled my determination to escape. That I ran deeper into the trees, guided by the pierce of the moonlight filtering through the branches. I could still hear the haunting echoes of Evelyn's voice, "Help me." It lingered in my head, urging me on. But I'd run as hard as I could. I needed to put distance between me and the horror I'd just escaped. After a few moments, I stumbled into a wide clearing, the moonlight illuminating a small brook that sparkled enticingly. I felt drawn to it, but I hesitated. This was no safe haven. Everything I'd experienced reminded me of the darkness that lurked just beyond my reach. But the water called to me. I kneeled by the edge and cupped my hands, splashing my face with the cool water. It brought clarity, even if only briefly. As I caught my breath, a thought struck me. I could escape, but Evelyn was still trapped. Something inside me surged, a responsibility, a connection I could no longer dismiss. Flashes of the journal crossed my mind, the erratic scrawls warning me of what lay ahead. They wanted her. Whatever that entity was, it felt like it was calling for me to come back. Come back, the chilling realization that I could run but wouldn't be free swept over me. I couldn't leave her behind, but how could I face what had haunted me? I was caught between two worlds, the urge to flee and the urge to save her. I couldn't ignore her cries. That I turned, looking back at the dark tree line where the cabin lay hidden. I still felt the pull of the shadows, still heard the whispers wrapping around me. If I turned back now, if I could just understand the truth hidden beneath the darkness, maybe I could save Evelyn from her torment. But what if the darkness had already claimed me as well? Swallowing my fear, I made my decision. I had to confront it, whatever madness lived inside that cabin, whatever captive force had twisted Evelyn's story. With renewed resolve, I headed back into the woods, guided by that unfaltering whisper of fate. I treaded carefully, remembering each branch and stone as I approached the cabin, the door still ajar, creaking eerily in the breeze that I took a deep breath and stepped inside again. The shadows seemed to pulse around me, and the familiar whispers swirled in the air. But this time, I was not the helpless artist out of her depth. I had knowledge, I had a purpose. I needed to find Evelyn. I needed to confront whatever haunted this place. As I walked deeper into the darkness, the distorted drawings around me glared back, a chorus of silent screams. They were waiting for me, but I wouldn't give in to their fear. I could feel the oppressive weight pressing down, threatening to suffocate me. Would I ever truly escape this darkness? Or was this cabin merely an extension of it? I felt the temperature drop, and for a moment, I thought I saw Evelyn ahead, her figure barely visible. "Help me," she urged once again. A chill washed over me, but I pressed forward, determined. It didn't matter how many questions remained unanswered, I needed to know what this place wanted from me. So I plunged ahead, chasing whispers into the night, ready to face whatever truth lay hidden within the shadows, and as I did, a single question spiraled in my mind: would I find Evelyn, or would the darkness keep me forever entangled in its web? An answer I knew I might never truly grasp. But one thing was for certain, I couldn't leave without discovering the price of my choices.